Mondays might not be for everybody, but there's something about doing the power rankings to start off the week that's kind of exciting for me because we get to see how the OHL teams are doing at this point in the regular season. And we're almost at the end of November already, believe it or not. So let's take a look at the power rankings 20 through 1. And it all starts with the Peterborough Petes. No change for them. The Petes still sitting at one win after 19 games during the regular season. Last week, they were 0-2 with losses to Owen Sound and Kitchener, and things haven't gotten any easier for the Petes. As Zach Bowen, their goaltender, out due to injury, and it sounds like it could be a while before Bowen returns to the Peterborough Petes lineup, which means it's up to Easton Rye and Mason Johnston to man the crease for the Peterborough Petes. As this team, of course, they're in a rebuild, looking to the future, but it'd be nice to see a few more wins for this team before we reach the midway point of the regular season. Coming up this week, they're at home Thursday to the Brantford Bulldogs. Friday, they're in Kingston. And then Saturday, they host the North Bay Battalion. At number 19, the Sarnia Sting. They fell one spot this week, and it's been a tough go recently for Sarnia. They were 1-7 on their 8-game road trip, and right now riding a 6-game losing streak as they returned home on Sunday against Kitchener, where they were shut out 5-0. It was also a pretty physical game between the Sting and the Rangers, but for Sarnia, goals have been hard to come by. They've been shut out now in 2 of their last 4 games, and coming up, not going to be any easier. Friday, they're home to Ottawa, and then on Sunday, they take on the Barrie Colts. At number 18, the Owen Sound Attack. They fell 2 positions this week, and Owen Sound started the week with a 4-1 win on the road against the Peterborough Petes and followed it up with losses in Kingston and Ottawa. So Sam McHugh, though, a bit of a bright spot for Owen Sound. Goals in back-to-back games, and he's right now a point per game so far this season. So a little bit of a bright spot there for the Attack. Coming up for Owen Sound, they're in London on Friday, and then they host the Oshawa Generals on Saturday. So 2 very tough teams coming up on Friday night and Saturday night. At number 17, the Guelph Storm. No change for them from last week. Guelph, they've been a different team with 3 wins in their last 5 games. And 3 of those games, they posted at least 7 goals. The offense has come alive for the Guelph Storm. They were shut out 4-0 to London Knights to wrap up the week. But outside of that, they've been looking pretty solid. 8 goals in their win against the Niagara Ice Dogs, who at the time were the top team in the Eastern Conference standings. So the Storm look like they're coming to life right now. We'll see if this can continue, because Jet Luchenko, he had that slow start after coming back from the Philadelphia Flyers, but now he's got 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points in 8 games for Guelph. Him and Nemesnikov really the catalyst in why the Guelph Storm are looking like a bit of a different team than what we saw to start the season. Coming up for Guelph, they head up north. They're going to be in North Bay on Thursday, and then Friday they're in Sudbury. At number 16, the Flint Firebirds. They're the biggest climber, up 3 spots this week, and it was a really good week for the Flint Firebirds. They went 2-1, and those wins were against the Soo and Erie's, who 2 teams much higher than them in the power rankings right now. They had a 4-2 lead against the Saugeen Spirit before Saginaw came back to win that game 7-5. So 2 big wins against the Otters and Greyhounds, and they put up quite the fight against Saginaw. So some encouraging signs here for the Flint Firebirds. Matthew Wang, he had a big week for Flint, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points. So maybe this is the start of the turnaround for the Firebirds, because I kind of figured Flint would be a team challenging for top spot in the West Division. So maybe this is a sign of the team heading in that direction. But coming up, Friday they're in Saginaw, and then Saturday they're home to the Barrie Colts. At number 15, we have the North Bay Battalion, who fell 2 positions this week. But good news for the Battalion, Mike McIver back in the lineup. They managed a 6-5 win, though, in overtime against the Sudbury Wolves to wrap up the week. Owen Van Steensel, he was the hero. It wasn't the prettiest of wins, though, for the Battalion, as they had to come back in the third period against the Sudbury Wolves. Or the Wolves, they came back, they had the lead late, and then North Bay had to tie it to force overtime. So it was just not a pretty game, but the Battalion managed to get the 2 points out of that one. Coming up on Thursday, they're home to the Guelph Storm. Saturday, they travel to Peterborough. And then on Sunday, they're in Kingston. At number 14, Brampton. The Steelheads, no change from last week. Only 4 points separates 5th through 9th right now in the Eastern Conference standing. It's very tight. But did anyone expect to see Brampton on the outside looking in on the playoff picture at this stage of the season? Right now, the Steelheads, they kind of remind me of the slow start the Saginaw Spirit had last year. Remember that because Saginaw, they were the hosts of the Memorial Cup last season. And at this point last year, there was a lot of questions about what will the CHL do if the Saginaw Spirit don't make the playoffs as host. But in the end, the Spirit they'd come back. They would end up winning the West Division. They won the Memorial Cup championship. So I'm not saying that's the same path the Brampton Steelheads are going to take, but they're also having a slow start similar to Saginaw last year with all that talent on this group. So don't panic if you're a Brampton Steelheads fan. This team, they will figure it out. 1-1 was their record last week. A big win against the Barrie Colts, but then lost to the Brantford Bulldogs. Coming up this week, they're in Erie on Wednesday. Friday, they're home to Niagara. And then on Sunday, they host the Soo. So 3 very tough opponents coming up this week for Brampton. At number 13, it's the Brantford Bulldogs. They're up 2 spots this week. And Brantford, they've been a very streaky team this season. They went from having a 7-game point streak. I did a video talking about that point streak and how impressive it was, despite the power play lacking. And then they went on a 5-game losing streak. And now they're on a 4-game point streak after going 2-1 last week. So you just don't know what you're going to get with the Bulldogs right now. So they're trying to be more consistent. But Nick Lardis, he has been on a roll. Back-to-back hat tricks, and he's riding a 7-game point streak. So Nick Lardis, he's carrying this team right now, and we'll see if the Bulldogs can kind of figure things out as they climb the Eastern Conference standings. Coming up on Thursday, they will be in Peterborough. Friday, they're home to Oshawa, and then Saturday, they're home to Kingston. At number 12, it's the Ottawa 67s. They're down 1 position this week. The 67s, they managed 3 out of a possible 6 points, going 1-1-1. And it was great to see Henry Muse. He put up 4 points in their win against the Owen Sound attack. And that's now his second 4-point outing of the season. And for Muse, a bit of a slow start, but he seems to be picking it up. So a good sign here for the 67s. And coming up, they will travel west this weekend. Their road trip will start in Sarnia on Friday. Saturday, they're in Windsor. And then Sunday in London. So a pretty tough road trip coming up here for the Ottawa 67s. At number 11, the Kingston Frontenacs. They're up 1 position this week. And for the Frontenacs, they're enjoying top spot in the Eastern Conference standings, which I don't think many predicted. They went 2-1 last week, a big 7-1 win at home against Owen Sound. Then they were stunned 6-2 by Oshawa yesterday. So they've got the offense, but I think they were playing a pretty determined bunch in the Oshawa Generals on Sunday, because Kingston, they're the second highest scoring team in the OHL. They have 92 goals for, while their 68 goals against is the 3rd fewest in the Eastern Conference. So not too shabby here from the Fronts. So don't be surprised to see the Frontenacs maybe add a couple pieces between now and the trade deadline to try and keep this momentum, because I think Kingston, they've got the pieces. Troy Mann's got them playing the systems. And I do like their goaltending tandem of Vakari and Lalonde. I think this is something that they were really missing last year, was somebody to be in the crease to support Mason Vakari, as he played way too many games last season. So Lalonde giving him that support. So we'll see if that can continue for them, because coming up on Friday, they're home to Peterborough. Saturday, they're in Brantford. And then on Sunday, they're home to North Bay. At number 10, it's the Niagara Ice Dogs. They fell 1 position this week. Now, Niagara, they're no longer the top dog in the Eastern Conference after going 0-2 last week. And their goals against is not the greatest. They gave up 14 goals in 2 games against Guelph and Brantford. So not ideal. Kevin he missed Sunday's game due to a suspension after receiving a misconduct in the loss against Guelph. That hurts the offense quite a bit, as Kevin the offense pretty much goes through him. Him and Loshko lead the way with the points. But you know what? Good teams, they find a way to overcome adversity. So we'll see how they do after losing back-to-back games for the first time this season. So a big test here for the Niagara Ice Dogs, and their schedule, a bit of a challenging one coming up. Thursday, they're home to the Soo Greyhounds. Friday, they travel to Brampton. And then on Saturday, they're home to the Sudbury Wolves. At number 9, it's the Sudbury Wolves, who moved up 1 spot this week. And what a huge win it was Friday night against the Windsor Spitfires. They put up 9 goals against one of the top teams in the OHL right now. Very impressed. Quentin Musty had 2 goals, 4 assists in the win, while Nathan Villeneuve, a goal and 3 assists. The Wolves, I think, can make things interesting in the East, as they have found a way just to get points. And they also had that comeback against the North Bay Battalion. They ended up losing in overtime on Sunday, but I do like the look of this team. Obviously, this is a team that might be looking more so to the future, so we'll see if they'll keep the band together here. I know Quentin Musty already asked for a trade out of Sudbury at the start when he came back from San Jose, but we'll have to wait and see. If this team's winning, does Quentin Musty decide to stick around in Sudbury? Time will tell. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe he gets moved at the trade deadline. But still, right now, you have to be pretty impressed with what the Wolves are able to do. Coming up on Friday, they're home to Guelph. Saturday, they'll be in Niagara. And then Sunday, a big match against the Oshawa Generals. At number 8, it's the Saugeen Spirit, who fell one position. Now, it didn't seem like there was a lot of defense in Saugeen's games this week. They first won 7-5 against Flint. Then they lost 7-5 to Erie. And then defeated Sarnia 9-3. That's a lot of goal scoring. The win in Flint saw Joey Willis put up a record 5 goals. So that record is for a franchise record for the Saugeen Spirit. So Joey Willis, amazing game there. And then he followed it up with a hat trick against the Sarnia Sting for a total of 9 goals in 3 games. Willis was unreal. So we'll see if Saginaw will continue to find the back of the net at will. They're now the highest scoring team in the OHL. Friday, they're home to the Flint Firebirds, and then Saturday, they're home to the London Knights. At number 7, we have the Barrie Colts, who are up one position, and it was a tough week schedule-wise for the Barrie Colts. They played 3 teams that are all considered to be contenders in the Eastern Conference, and they went 2-1. The win against Oshawa Saturday, that game could have gone either way, but in the end, Sam Hillbrant, he was the hero for the Barrie Colts, robbing Colby Barlow 3 times in the third period to seal the win 6-4. And suspensions, though, becoming a little more common than I think Marty Williamson and the coaching staff would like to see. Right now, Bodie Stewart, Jaden Newton, and Evan Passmore currently serving suspensions, but all 3 will return at some point during this road trip coming up this weekend. And it's not an easy road trip. It's through the West Division. It starts Thursday in Windsor at the WFCU Center. Saturday, they're in Flint. And then Sunday, they wrap it up against the Sarnia Sting. At number 6, the Oshawa Generals down 1 spot. Now, Oshawa only fell a spot because they were passed. Had nothing to do with their play last week because they went 2-1 and they're 3-3. They needed a shootout, though, against Ottawa to pull off the win there. And then they went up to Barrie, ended up losing there, but that game went back and forth. That was a great game to call. And if you get a chance, watch the highlights because that game was a ton of fun. And then they had a statement win. That's how I look at it against the Kingston Frontenacs, as it was the end of their 3-3. And Kingston, they were waiting. They had the night off. But Oshawa showing that they may be the team to beat in the East Division, despite Kingston right now holding on a top spot. So big win there for Oshawa. My only concern right now for the Generals going forward is how much they're playing Jacob Oster. He played in all 3 games against Ottawa, Barrie, and Kingston. Now, you're never going to hear him say he would like a rest. All goaltenders, I feel, want to play night in and night out, but you want to pace yourself because you don't want to burn him out. Example is Kingston last year with Mason Vicari. Although Jacob Oster, he did play the bulk of the games last year. Right now, if you look at it, he's appeared in 18 of Oshawa's 22 games to start the regular season. So I know we're not even halfway through the year, but still, that's probably my one concern right now with the Oshawa Generals. Coming up on Friday, they will be in Brantford. Saturday, they're in Owen Sound. And then Sunday, they host the Sudbury Wolves. At number 5, it's the Soo Greyhounds, who are up 1 position. And I know there are some who feel the Greyhounds should look to the future, maybe acquire younger talent or draft picks. But the Soo, they keep finding ways to earn victories against some of the top teams in the OHL. They had wins in overtime against Erie and Windsor last week. Noel Nord, he has looked very comfortable since joining the Soo Greyhounds. He now has 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points in 10 games, while Schenkel and Miller both continue to be solid in the crease for this Greyhounds team. I like the look of this team. We'll see how they go moving forward. They're kind of in a similar situation as the Sudbury Wolves. Do they look to retool a bit? Not necessarily contend for this year, maybe just look to the future, but with the way this team is playing, why not ride it along and see where this team ends up? They are on the road this weekend, though. Thursday, it starts in Niagara. Friday, they're in Erie. And then on Sunday, they visit the Brampton Steelheads. At number 4, it's the Erie Otters. No change for them from last week. The Otters won 1-1 on the road trip through the West Division, and they looked very good in the win against the Saginaw Spirit, where Kerry Torrance posted 4 goals for Erie. And it was a bit of a slow start for Torrance in the regular season, but man, he has really been putting it on. He's got a 5-game point streak right now, 6 goals, 3 assists. So Kerry Torrance, that's a key player on this offense for the Otters if they are truly going to try and contend in the Western Conference. The Midwest right now is very top heavy with London, Kitchener, and Erie. So the Otters just waiting their turn to try and squeak into that top spot. But this is an Erie Otters team that's very fun to watch. Coming up this week, they have 3 very big games. Wednesday, they're home to Brampton. Friday, they host the Sioux. And then on Saturday, they're home to Kitchener. So 3 big games this week coming up for the Erie Otters. At number 3, the Windsor Spitfires. They're down 1 spot. Now, if the Spitfires didn't force overtime against the Greyhounds on Sunday, they likely would have fallen out of the top 3 ranking because it was a tough road trip through Northern Ontario here for Windsor. They went 1-1-1, and the loss in Sudbury was pretty ugly, that 9-3 final. But kind of like I said when I was talking about the Niagara Ice Dogs, good teams find a way to overcome adversity. So this is a big test right now for the Windsor Spitfires going forward, and we'll see really what this team is capable of. I think they're going to be able to turn it around. We've already seen how good the offense is. Joey Costanzo early on, one of the top goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. So we'll see what Windsor can do going forward. They have a big test Thursday at home against Barrie. Friday, they're in Kitchener, and then Saturday home to Ottawa. So the top teams right now in the power rankings all have games right now against other top teams. So the power rankings a week from now could look very different or very much the same. So it's going to go one or two ways, especially when we've got top teams going head to head like we're seeing coming up in the week ahead. At number 2, it's the Kitchener Rangers. They're up 1 spot, and Kitchener back to their winning ways, it seems. Their newest addition already paying off. We saw that in the game against the Sarnia Sting. Kitchener 2-0 last week. They outscored their opponents 9-1. Jack Pridham, he joined the team, and he had a goal and 3 assists in those 2 games. So a nice start there for him. I know the wins were over Peterborough and Sarnia, 2 teams that are at the bottom of the overall standings, but this is going to help their confidence as they bounce back from that 2-game losing streak. And they have a huge game coming up tomorrow night. They're going to take on the London Knights. It's the first meeting of the season between London and Kitchener, the top 2 teams in the Midwest Division. And then Friday, the Kitchener Rangers host Windsor, and Saturday, they're in Erie. So this is, I think, the week we're going to find out what this Kitchener Rangers team is capable of. Are they truly a contender if they can get wins against these teams? Or do we see them kind of tail off a bit in the standings and other teams can start to overtake them? But Yusei Hokus, he's done an amazing job behind the bench with this Kitchener Rangers team, and I cannot wait to see that matchup tomorrow at the Odd. I wish I could be there in person, but we'll have to watch it from the comforts of home tomorrow between the Knights and the Rangers. So at number 1 on the power rankings, no change from last week. It's the London Knights. So the second week in a row, London is number 1. And I know there are some not happy seeing London in the number 1 spot in the power rankings, but you have to remember the power rankings are more than just the standings. It's about how a team is playing right now. And for the Knights, they're riding an 11-game winning streak. So right there, it's the longest active winning streak right now in the OHL. You've got Easton Cowan. He's on a 51-game point streak. He's now 4 back at Doug Gilmour's record 55-game point streak from the Canadian Hockey League. And Justin Elliott, he also recorded his first OHL shutout in a 4-0 win against the Guelph Storm. The Knights have also had Kasper Halttunen returned from the San Jose Sharks. He got 2 assists in his first game back. So the Knights, they look lethal. They're firing on all cylinders. I know that I've been covering the OHL now for the last 17 years, and the most common thing I hear year after year is fans being a little grumpy to seeing the London Knights continuously being competitive, but it's a model that they use that seems to work. And at this point, if you're going to try and replicate what the Knights are doing, it's almost what you have to do if you're going to be, you can crack their system, figure out how it is that what they do, but give credit to the Knights. They do find a way to continue to get players back, and they get the wins. And right now, dominating in the Western Conference right now. So they do have a pretty full week. 4 games is on their schedule. Tuesday, they're in Kitchener, so that's a huge matchup. Friday, they're home to Owen Sound. Saturday in Saginaw. And then on Sunday, they're home to the Ottawa 67. So that's how I see it from the booth with the power rankings. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts, your surprises, or what's your expectations coming forward, because this is a big week for a lot of teams at the top of both the East and the Western Conference standings. This should be a fun week overall. I can't wait to cover it, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can be notified every time we do a news video here on the channel or the next Power Rankings. Thank you again for all your support. Talk to you again soon.